What is up, folks? Welcome back to another BrickBucks Live. It is really good to be back. I do apologize for a little bit of a delay here with these live shows, but we're back now, and I have Dan here. I'm super excited about this one. This is Adirondack Brick Dan, who has experience with Lego investing and Lego reselling in various different forms. So I'm really excited. We're going to go into a lot of different types of business models and different ways that people can get involved with selling Lego. Maybe Dan will talk a little bit about just Lego in general as well, because I know we're both fans of it. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a while since we started chatting. So I love it.
Thanks for being here, man. It's good to have you. So just to kick off, do you want to give a quick overview of, who you are and what you do a little bit, just so kind of people kind of get to know you just a little bit here at the top?
Yeah, of course. I'll try and keep it.
Oh, hold on, Dan. Did you mute yourself? Your audio cut.
Did it cut? Let me see if I got it here. Can you still hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, we were going so well during sound check. Okay, apologies, folks. Right at the top, we have a sound problem. You're muted now if you want to try and unmute.
All right.
There you go. You're back. Yes.
All right. Good. All right. So I was going to say, just kind of chat about myself. I'll keep it quick, but my Lego journey, I loved Lego as a kid, but as everybody else, I had those dark periods, and it kind of took till I was an adult, being totally honest, dealing with some anxiety. And I started building sets myself, just something to have my hands at the end of the night. That got me back into Lego. I have 3 kids now, so that really dove us back in. And I'm a teacher, and I need a part-time job or something on the side to be able to financially support. And just through some luck, it started on eBay, went to Bricklink, and then followed BrickBucks Live and a lot of the other things through that, and got into more investing, and now I'm down the rabbit hole.
So did you grow up with Lego?
Oh yeah. For me, it was a lot of, I had a big tub, and it was just building with the big tub, not many sets. And that tub actually is the same tub that's in my 3rd grade class today that I teach. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, wow. I have a similar thing. I have 2 tubs of Lego in my hometown over in Ireland that I'm just waiting to crack open someday. I haven't opened it in years, and I'm just really waiting for that day when that day comes. So you're a teacher, and you've obviously got, I imagine your time is absolutely packed. I definitely want to jump into some, some time saving tips or time management tips, because it sounds like you must be a man of a lot of different things kind of pulling you from a lot of different directions. So how many years have you kind of been looking at Lego as a business, or kind of, seeing it as more than just a hobby?
Starting this year, it's going on my 3rd year. I started about halfway through the year, so about 2.5 years ago, that I've been looking at as a financial business.
Yeah. And what was your first encounter with figuring out, oh, wow, like this thing is bigger than what I thought it was?
It was some sets that I had bought when I first started building again. I wanted to sell them to buy sets to build with my kids. And so I went straight to eBay to see what their value is, was shocked to see some of their values after even just a short period of 5 years. And then started with the eBay was my first experience selling mainly whole sets. I'd buy a lot of used sets that were missing parts, and I try and find the parts and then sell it complete. And that's what led me to Bricklink first as a customer.
Yeah. So you just kind of did that search on eBay, like hit some sold listings, and kind of I had a very similar introduction to this, the world of Lego investing, where, one day I'm like looking to buy some stuff, and I search, a couple times on eBay, and then I just kept searching. I'm like, what am I seeing right now? Like, how are these values so inflated, over the course of just a couple of years? So it sounds like it was similar for you, like a kind of a penny drop, like, wow, this is kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was totally, when I started, and then even especially when I had my Bricklink store, I was always embarrassed to tell people, like, oh, I stopped working my part-time job, and they're like, "Oh, how are you making money?" And I was like, "Well, I sell stuff, sell Lego," and totally over that now. But it was kind of an odd thing when I started.
Yeah, I mean, like people who run e-commerce businesses in general and like resellers, they have this like a lot of people that I talk to, and not just with Lego, with other items as well. It's like so many questions, people questioning what you do. Oh, are you still doing the Lego
Yeah,
thing? Are you still like, like as if kind of looking down on it a little bit, but it's something that we get used to over time, right? It's hard to understand unless you're involved.
yeah, for
And
sure.
did you start selling any other items at the start, or was it just like straight into Lego?
Oh, I started with everything. I started with so a long couple lives ago, I was a pastor. So my library, my books, I had so many books. It started with
Wow.
going through some books that I had. Um, and then I tried like retail arbitrage, and
Mhm.
I was focused on eBay because that's what I knew. And so it's not as great there. But I did a little bit of it. And I've done the garage sale thing. We have a very short window up here for garage sales. Um, and I've done all those things. And the one consistent thing that always made a profit was Lego. So over the course of time, just looking at where I'm putting my time, I just kept shifting it to Lego because that's where the return was. The other stuff
Mhm.
took the time, but didn't have quite the return that Lego did. So
What do you think it is about Lego that just makes it so consistent for, building a reselling business?
the love of Lego as a toy. It's something we all played with as kids, or the majority of us,
Yeah.
whether we were big into it or not. So we can turn around and play with it with our kids. And it's a toy that as adults, we're not afraid to just get and build with our kids. It's not, it's easy. It's just an easy entry to play with our kids. Show them what we like. We can, our fandom can come out when we like Star Wars or Minecraft or Harry Potter, and seeing those themes. Um, and it's the same exact toy that we had when we were kids. And that's the resale value. I can sell a brick that I had as a kid today, and it's worth more now because it's rarer, but essentially it's the same brick that I had as a kid that I'm selling today. And I think that's why it's made its mark as a retail or just reselling and an
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's so much that they're doing, like the Lego group are doing, that is just really impresses me over other toy brands or other,
Yeah.
other brands in general that we could resell. For example, all those license deals, right? Like they got to have more license deals than any other toy manufacturer out there. It's really insane, especially if you think about different themes like Speed Champions that has multiple license deals. We have Aston Martin coming now, like in Speed
Yeah,
Champions.
that's true.
It's really impressive the partnerships that they must be able to build with so many different companies. And then, all of the collectability that they drive and people getting
Yep.
excited about the new Star Wars helmets because we collected the old Star Wars helmets. And it's so fascinating to watch the economics of Lego, really. And I agree with you. I think it's because I was interested in Lego from a young age. It just makes it so much more fun to research it for me.
Yeah.
Like I could spend hours researching Lego, watching what's coming up or watching what's retiring. And I don't think I could do that same, amount of time researching, sneakers or shoes to sell online because it just doesn't interest me the same way. I think it's just Lego's fascinating.
That's the number one tip that I give to people that I know or friends that are wanting to start their own business is you have to pick something that you're passionate about. You don't have to be passionate about every aspect, but you have to find a passion within that, or else it's going to be a job. For me, there are days where I literally put my entire waking hours into my job, but it's enjoyable. So I can just do it repeatedly and I'm having fun with it. I have
Yeah.
days where I'm sorting for 12 hours a day, but I have my 9-year-old daughter sorting with me on one side. I'm building on the other side every few minutes with my youngest daughter. And it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I want to jump into a lot of that stuff as well.
Sure.
But taking this back to the beginning as well, again, so you started kind of researching stuff on eBay, and then
Yeah.
what was it like for you when you first started kind of pulling the trigger on a couple of sets for resale? Was that a scary experience for you? Because Lego's an expensive thing to buy, right? So if you're brand new into it, it's a bit of a dive into the deep end for some people if it's your first venture into reselling.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of start like for you?
It was scary. And to be honest, I started buying my first sets with the intention of reselling them probably 7 years ago. And I never sold my first one until I came back into it 3 years ago. It was the intention of, I'm going to find the rest of the set to build it, to sell it complete. And I just never got around to it because of the daunting of having to spend the money and the bigger sets. And then when I got back into it, I was like, okay, I just need to sell it because I needed to for the profit. So that motivation is what got me over the hump. But it was daunting, and I started out small. I started out when I had my actually probably when I had about 3 jobs going, so that I didn't have to rely on it. And I think that's the only way I'm standing here or sitting here talking to you today, is that when I started, I wasn't financially dependent upon, and to this day, I'm still not financially dependent on solely this business.
Yeah. And it's an important point, and I do get, I get asked a handful of times about like, when, is it something that I can take full time? Can I be full time with selling Lego? And my answer is always yes. There are some business models in the world of Lego that you could be full time. Lego investing, not as much unless you've got a lot of capital. Bricklink, if you put in a ton of work and are willing to do the hours while still keeping your job. But I think that most important part is that you need to be able to reinvest the profits in order to grow, right? Or at least a portion of the profits, and figure out what are my expenses of my business, the shipping supplies, the rent for your storage, or whatever the expenses are, and then go above that. And what's like an additional margin that I want to be able to reinvest into, like out of my profits that I want to reinvest just to grow, right? Because if you're just paying your expenses, you can't grow, and then it's never going to become what you envision for it. So you need to be able to invest more than what your expenses are. And if you need to live on the money, you're starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah. And there's so many ways to do that, but it's important to develop whatever works for you, whether it's a percentage of my sales go back into the business. Ideally, if it can be 100% at the start, but if not, like set that margin, 75% goes back to pay for new merchandise back into the business. For me, there was a period of time where everything I sold on eBay, which when it came to Lego was mainly minifigures, that would go to my pocket to help pay some bills as I got going. And then Bricklink was all reinvested. And it just, whatever works for your business, as long as you're tracking, you just got to be smart. If you don't reinvest in something, it's not going to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you first started off, you were, like you mentioned, you were looking to sell your own sets and looking at used sets particularly. Did you start thinking about investing in new sets at that time, or was it predominantly used stuff?
Predominantly used. And it wasn't until, and I know you've interacted with this guy, but Pop's Block Shop, Derek over there, seeing his channel and actually seeing Brick Arena, that was another one, and seeing them part out new sets. And after buying the used sets, and just, I didn't know what bricks sold. I didn't even know what color sold originally. So when I got the used sets, honestly, I lost more money than I gained at the start. And it wasn't until I got to the new sets and developed the system, which pretty much was just copying the guys that I saw on YouTube, even way back to Clutch, and just watching those guys copying their system and making it my own. So it was the new sets as parts and minifigures. It took me probably till the last, I'd say, 8 months before I was looking at new sets as investments as sealed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started off looking at sets on eBay, and then you quickly pivoted into, parts on Bricklink.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. And so, so that move into Bricklink, then what was that experience like for you? How much work, I guess, did you have to put into it in the beginning to start to see some traction? I know that is, it's something that takes time to really get the kind of snowball rolling.
I was spoiled. I came in shortly before the pandemic hit, and Bricklink hit their kind of boom with that. So I came in and I worked out some kinks for about half a year before the pandemic hit. and had some sales here and there. Messed around with prices. I tried that thing where, okay, Bricklink's based heavily off of the 6 months sales average. So I drop it like a 30-40% sale, and then realize, okay, that didn't work. I got too many orders in one day, made no money off of it, made the mistakes, learned. And then once I figured it out, it kind of timed well with the pandemic, had the inventory going. And it was pretty fluid, and it gave me good feedback because I got those initial 1 or 2 sales a week, which to me was great. But having those 1 or 2 sales a week allowed me to buy new sets, and the daunting of investing in a new sealed set, the price was so high. This allowed me to have a lower entry level and to be able to kind of still invest in the parts, the pieces, learn what sold, learn what was popular, everything, minifigures to colors to part type, and then on the new set.
E-commerce in general, right? Like, you know, what it's like to serve customers online, what it's like to build an online business, make money, you know, through the tubes of the internet,
Taxes.
right? And taxes and, you know, order fulfillment and storage systems and everything that goes into this crazy world, right?
Yep.
How was for your initial kind of storage system? Did you kind of have like a good understanding of what you wanted to go with from the very start, or is that something that you revised and changed and spent a ton of time on redrawing?
I had no clue at first. My fiance who helps me here at the shop, and a couple of the other contractors that I have come in, and either if they pick orders, they hate it when we get an order that has parts from one of the first sets that I parted out, because my philosophy at the start was it was going to be a small hobby. I took all of my white bricks, I put them in bags, and I put them in one big like Sterilite drawer, like one of the big ones. So when I get an order, I have to pick through the colored bin, and it worked for when I only had like 1 or 2 orders a week. So I was like, all right. And I added some more, and then quickly down the road, and I'm still paying the price for that, but it's developed over time. It started out with that, and then I watched a lot of Brick Arena, Pop's Block Shop, everybody else, and they had the acro mills. I got a few of those. I dove into that. I experimented with putting multiple lots in a drawer, and that worked out at the first beginning. But then as it went on, having mixed lots in a drawer made it really tough. And I actually have kind of graduated to a system that nobody else I've seen use. I use like plastic tackle boxes for the majority of my parts. Just with the little cups they have about 24 cups to a tackle box. They sit flat. I number them, and they just fit that perfect amount for the amount of lots or amount of pieces that are in one lot for me at the current time. I've used these red and black. I'm going to feel bad. I'll remember his name and his store later on. But I saw somebody else that uses the red and black toolboxes from Walmart, and they store their pieces in that. So I use those to store my bigger pieces. And then this isn't my Bricklink here, but I moved on to using some of these drawers. And I have some of the food trays that I also learned from another Bricklink seller, just to divide up the lots. So my plates, my more common pieces, I've moved into those. My modified bricks, just the wide variety, go in my tackle boxes. The big pieces go into those toolboxes. And 3 years later, now I have a system that works for me, works for input for my store, and I'm still changing it. Like looking at, now I want to have all of my plates. That's my newest. I want to have all my plates together. So I can go to the drawer and get all the 2x8 plates that I need from that one drawer and kind of move on that way. I don't think I'll ever perfect it. I'll always be changing it, but you got to be open to it. But the one thing looking back that I would say to anybody listening or thinking about doing Bricklink is definitely start with the end in mind, more so than I did. I did not start with the end in mind for sure.
Yeah, like, because I was kind of joking a little bit about like, have you had to redraw things, and but like that is it's very common. When you're building any storage system, it's not only Bricklink, but it's the same in with sealed set Lego investing. And I started out with shelves, and I've moved to almost a fully tote bin system. And in the future, I'll probably move again to something else. Like there's always, with any storage system, there's always going to be a process that you go through or inventory system, I should say. In the book with our used book business, different types of tickets that we print out so we can quickly pick orders and all sorts of different things. But with Bricklink, like when you're redrawing it all, like when I want to revisit the way I'm storing all of these parts, the amount of work involved is pretty substantial.
Oh yeah. I couldn't be even at the scale. I do it at a very small scale compared to others, and I still need help. Probably more because of all the other activities I have going on, and I like having people around me, but definitely couldn't do it on my own. And to be honest, all those mistakes were worth it, because at the time I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have that system that allowed me to put pieces into my store as quick as I did. It may have taken me longer to pick orders, but I got the pieces in, which got me the orders in the first place. So what today looks as something like, oh, that's a mistake, I got to fix it. Honestly, I wouldn't be here without having the benefits of that too.
Yeah. So as long as you can gain some efficiency someplace in your business, right? You can you can revisit and revamp other things. And you mentioned some YouTubers out there that do Bricklink and are very transparent about their business. I gotta say, like if anyone here is like who's watching is considering getting into Bricklink, or if you're already a Bricklink seller and you want to learn some new methods, and if you're not watching YouTube for it, you're missing one of the greatest opportunities, right? Because you go back like 20 years, right? Even 10 years, entrepreneurs, people starting businesses did not have the visibility that we now have into how people run their businesses, right? And some of the Bricklink guys are so transparent, and they show everything about how they do this.
They show their financials every month. Like they legit show you their sales and their lots and everything. And I think it carries over to like all entrepreneurs now are being more open, but not just Bricklink. I'd say more so the Lego industry than anything, because when I've dove into researching new sets and value. I'll be honest, I started following BrickBucks mainly to see how it would help my Bricklink business, to look at what sets were investable. And okay, well, if the sets are investable for new sealed, then they're going to grow those parts, those specific parts that are only in that set, or the minifigures are going to grow in value too. And then quickly through your community, you guys helped me get ungated. They were open about what sets they're looking at, what sets are good investments. And I mean, that's direct competition, but realizing sharing this information helps everybody. It doesn't really hurt you.
Yeah.
You may have a competitor, but it doesn't mean when they succeed, you fail. Everybody can succeed.
Agreed. Yeah. It's an amazing community, and it is like it's just full of, people who are out there willing to help others. And it is a benefit that we did not have, years ago. And if you're trying to start a business, before the internet, you're on your own. You're going to a library trying to read books about how to do things. And so take advantage of this stuff for sure. And I think, so the food tray idea, was that just a brick in the bucket that you got that from?
No,
I saw them doing that. I thought it was genius.
It's who they got. It was Dave, and I believe his store is BB&B. I know there's BB&B in the title. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Dave. He was on our show
too. He does his balloon. Yeah. He's also a balloon artist, but he got into Bricklink, and he's the one that really kind of showed that method for storage.
Right. Yep. All right. That's awesome. So, so you're selling, you had started your Bricklink store, and what was your space like, in the beginning when you first started out? Did you have kind of a room in your house that you were able to dedicate to it? I presume this was before you went out and rented anything. How did that kind of start off?
Yep. It started off with actually it started off with a desk and a shelf. Right. And it quickly escalated to a room in the house, one wall where I put the Acromills up on the wall. And actually, because it was in the house, I didn't even nail them to the wall. I just put a table and stacked them on the table. A small little closet. I'm talking, I had maybe like 5-6 Acromil type drawers at the time.
Yeah.
And then that's when it really kicked up. And my fiance is amazing because it graduated to we have a hallway that comes into our house with a walk-in closet. And that walk-in closet became my Bricklink store, and my desk was in our hallway. And that's kind of when I hit that it was outgrowing the house and I had to look for something else.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what was that transition then? How did you start off? You rented a space. Is it the same space that you turned into your brick and mortar? And we're going to touch on your brick and mortar soon. I've got tons of questions about that.
Oh, that's all right.
But how did that first kind of transpire with renting your first space?
Yeah. So I was coming into looking for a physical space maybe 2 years down the road. I didn't have the thoughts that, okay, I'm gonna have one soon. I was like, I'm gonna deal with my house. I have a garage at my house that I could maybe renovate and be able to use as the Bricklink store. But knowing that I wanted to expand past that, I came out and looked at real estate. Finally, I've been putting off the call to the real estate agent. And I think just because of the times that we're under, residential real estate is through the roof, but commercial is at a low, especially in my small town or communities kind of like mine. I ran into a space that was vacant for about 2 years before I got into it, and got prices looking towards the future. And on my way home, I have about a 15-minute ride home. I got a call and they drastically reduced the price of the lease by 25%. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing it.
It's not a great salesperson, is it? On your way home.
Yeah, on my way home, they called me back right away and said, hey, this building will do it if you jump into it for this price. And so my physical space for my Bricklink store came at the same time actually as the retail space, which what we'll get into. And the only way I could get the physical space with other things in mind, like the retail brick and mortar side, was having the Bricklink to fund it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So is it a case where the Bricklink is like an upstairs section, or how is that played out?
That's how it started. It started as an upstairs section. It's a small little space with sectioned off into 3 sections. The loft is what we call it, has the Bricklink store, or had the Bricklink store. Then there's a retail space, and then my build room, workshop room, which is what I'm in now. So,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you first went to look at it, were you planning a retail store? Were you thinking I want to do a brick and mortar store dedicated to Lego, or were you thinking I need to get somewhere for my Bricklink store? What was the strategy at that point?
It was a little bit of both. The main priority was looking for a space for my Bricklink store. The second priority was, I'm a teacher. I love working with kids. So more than the retail space, it was a workshop to be able to come and do classes with kids, building competitions, just to kind of ignite that passion, and have a chance to work with kids. So I was looking at a space that had that potential and had space for my Bricklink. And then in looking at the business model, the retail side made sense because it allowed me to fill some gaps, things that wouldn't sell on Bricklink, that wouldn't sell on Amazon as quickly, that wouldn't sell on eBay, would sell great in a physical retail location with kids and families coming in regularly. And so it allowed some of that waste or long-term investment to turn into a short-term investment. So the 3 work together. I don't think without the Bricklink store, the retail store, and then my workshop build room side of it, I don't think if I had one of those missing, that it'd be possible at this point for me. So it all works together.
That's really interesting that you had this vision for the workshop side, so early on, right? Because I would think that's kind of almost like an upsell that you would have on top of the retail store, but it sounds like you had it the other way around in your mind. Like you passionate about the idea of doing workshops and build shops, and I guess I may as well sell some sets as well at the same time. Was that kind of the way you were thinking about it?
It was. And here's the reason why. Because Lego investment is a long-term approach to some extent. It takes time to sell. So what I was looking at the workshop side, it's something that I'm good at. I do already in my classroom with my kids. I enjoy. And the only cost it has to me is the space. But if that's being covered by Bricklink, it doesn't matter. So the only cost is my time. So for my time investment, I'm getting profit, and that profit can go right into the Lego investments, the new sets, the retail side, and it can kind of fund that. So I looked at it that way, and that's why I looked more towards the workshop. It's like a membership build room where you can come buy the membership or pay by the hour to just build with all of our bricks that we have here for people to build with. That funds the true money maker, kind of investable money type of thing.
Right. Yeah. And I was just about to ask this, but I saw it pop up in the comments. Greg asked, how long has the store been open? So when did you first start with the retail store?
The retail side only since November. Since November. So the holiday season. That was the other reason. They called me back with that 25% lower lease. And I was like, all right, here it is, the start of November, end of October. Let's get some holiday sales.
Wow. That's a busy time to be starting, that sort of thing.
And I'm from Saranac Lake. And one of our big tourist things that we have is we have a winter carnival with an ice palace parade and everything. That's actually this week now. So it was the holiday season. And then we have a lot of people coming to our town now for this month of February. So it was like, well, if I started at any time, now's the time to do it. And then actually one additional thing that kind of just threw itself out there as perfect timing. You mentioned I'm a part-time teacher. I'm a part-time teacher this year because I have a new son and I have paternity leave. So the way my school worked it out was I teach 3 days a week and have a co-teacher that teaches with me the other 2 days. So for this school year, I have that luxury. So it was that perfect opportunity. I have more time. I can get those boosts to sales from the holiday season to fund it, because financially, I probably wouldn't have had the money to fund the startup other than having those initial sales. And just the real estate market for commercial use being low and down at the time.
Yeah. Understanding the kind of, the macro like economics of what's going on right now and using that, in your business. So congrats firstly on the birth of your third child, was it?
Yeah.
Wow. So a father of 3 on top of everything else that you have going on here. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Sponsored by, we'll leave that out.
Right. So, all right. So you opened the brick and mortar store, and how did you first think about your inventory for the store? Is it predominantly new sets, or are you doing used sets as well?
So my full goal was I started with new sets because that's what people are used to in a retail space. And I knew if I didn't have the new sets and someone walked in, when they walk in to buy Lego, they usually walk in to buy new sets. So I knew if I was missing those, I would lose return customers. So I focused all of my finances on the new sets for the inventory. Then, and since then, what I've done is when I sell those new sets, I divide the reinvestment to new sets and then used sets as well. So my store is kind of started to grow to be able to have more used sets. Profit wise, I make more on the used sets. Minifigures was another big draw because I have a lot of kids in the community that come in, and I was looking for a low price point for parents to be willing to purchase stuff for kids. Lego is such a high price point. They come in asking for the $70 set. Not every family is going to buy that. So they at least have those small price points of minifigures. I have those Lego dot bracelets. They have a Lego dot bin where they can build a bracelet, build a minifigure. All things that are cheap for me to get started, but the kids love it. It's an experience-based thing. And having the retail space, I also get more deals. I have a lot of people coming in to trade Lego. So I get used Lego in just in bulk. And then I also get more like used sets in, like the 2006 UCS set over here.
Wow.
And I can get them in at a better deal to be able to turn around and flip them. And honestly, I love doing that, because when I give out the credit for the sets, most of the time people will opt for store credit and they'll turn around and spend it in the shop again. So it just feeds itself.
Amazing. It's a win-win. You know,
Yeah.
you're making great sourcing at the same time as making more sales.
And I got to
That
say too, I
Right.
got to add to it. And even some of the contractors that I have that come in to help me sort Lego or pick orders, they'll turn around and spend their money in the shop too. So it even is like, oh, I can afford to kind of pay them more, knowing that they're fans and they're going to be reinvesting in the shop too. So it works. It's a fun hobby.
And it's a good sign, right? Like if people
Yeah.
who are coming in there are working, like are working with you, they're, you know, willing to turn around and spend in your store. Obviously they're liking your price points, they're liking your inventory, they're liking the experience. And that's obviously good, you know, a vote of confidence. I love that idea of the dots bracelets. That's fantastic. Because when you were talking about the minifigures, I was kind of envisioning like you know, when you're going to the checkout in a Walmart, you know, like they're always going to try and upsell you on the way to the checkout, right? Every cart that you're taking up there is probably not going to be the last thing you're going to buy. You'll see something, a magazine or a drink. Oh, I didn't realize I was thirsty until I saw the fridge next to the checkout. You know, what is our equivalent of that in the world of Lego, right? It's minifigs. You know, it's the ultimate thing to put next to the checkout counter to go along with your order. And if you're buying, you know, a set that has certain minifigs in it, like, you know, ATST with Cara Dune and Mandalorian, do you also have a Boba Fett in stock that I can buy? Like, you know, it's just, you can buy add-ons to the set that you're buying right there at the counter. So it's great. And like, yeah, like I think it makes total sense.
Well, and that is the model too, because even those little add-ons, it doesn't just stop at the minifigures. One of the things we do is we bag up like $2 lots of parts that maybe sit on Bricklink because they're not common parts, but stuff that's flashy to the eye. Spider-Man webs, some gold railings, hearts, just things that people will see in the store and like, oh, I can build something with that. And they go and do it. So it moves the inventory that's slower and speeds up the process. And I think you'll notice the theme talking to me about how to build the business as quick as I have. It's all about the quick turnarounds and being able to speed through that inventory, and just those little things like that really help that aspect of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when someone comes in to do a trade in, you know, they bring you a set and it's used. Do you have to have a process in place to build that set to see if it's complete, or how do you kind of think about that? Or do you just try to avoid the work and just list them as incomplete right off the top?
It depends. It's a case by case basis. If like the UCS set back here, I absolutely take that apart and inventory every piece, just because the price of incomplete versus complete varies so much. I get Minecraft sets in, like the $20, $30 Minecraft sets. Those I just turn around and either build so that they're displayed so people can see what parts are there, and I make sure that they're structurally there, and then sell those just right on the floor. Or if they're already broken down, sometimes I'll do a quick inventory and throw them in a bag with the instructions to sell. Sometimes I get the bulk buybacks where I'll buy bulk with complete sets mixed in. And I have someone that started as a customer that's ordering a lot, and he was looking for ways to kind of cut down his personal costs. So he goes through, he's extremely knowledgeable about the old 2000 city sets, a lot of the Star Wars from that early 99 through 2000s era. So he goes through those sets and he can pick out, I mean, he'll go through a bucket like this big, and within 5 minutes he'll have me 3 pieces to the Millennium Falcon and old Pirates of the Caribbean ship hull, and he'll just go through and have all those. So it's just because I built that community as early as I have, he just you find people that know what they're talking about and they can come and help. So it depends on the value of the set for sure, but sometimes it's worth it. And I've been proven wrong before. I've told that individual, I'll give them credit for it. And sometimes I'll be like, look, it's not going to be worth my time for you to put that much energy into building the set and the profit that I can sell it for. And he's proven me wrong, where he'll find every single piece to a set and we'll put it on my shelf, and my return is 4 times what I thought it would be. So
That's
I'm still
fantastic.
learning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
And do you like have a decision to make, I guess, when you take in a set and you're like trying to decide, do I want to put it on the shelf here in the brick and mortar, or do you also sell some stuff online, in like stuff that you take in the store, you just send it out the back door instead of out the front door?
Absolutely. That's a decision. And I'm still facing that today. Most of the time I put it back in my brick and mortar store. But now I'm starting to get a lot more inventory than I can visualize, that I can display in my store, and that my store is going to sell through currently. So I am getting more on the website, my personal website, and then looking to eBay for some of the used sets, or Bricklink. I have some on there, or getting some on there. Those are the ones where they're time consuming, because I want to 100% make sure that all the parts are there. So those are like the UCS set, Star Wars ships. Those are the ones that I take the time to inventory and put on sale somewhere else as well. But I admit, so far, I look for more of the quick flip, even selling at a lower price, just to get that cash flow going. Because my business the profit margin may not be high, but if the cash flow is high, there's a whole lot of tips and tricks that I can do to raise my profit, whether it's even just the cash back from the credit card that I'm using to just continually to pay it off every month. Then I'm saving the interest on the credit card by paying it off every month, to being able to purchase more used lots. And then eventually in that 10th used lot, I pull out the Cloud City Boba Fett that's $1,500, and then that makes all the profit. So volume seems to be my biggest friend at the start.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it's got to be hard to, like, if obviously a brick and mortar store is limited by the foot traffic that can possibly come in the door, right? And in any town, even if you're in New York City, that is not infinite, right? There's a certain amount of people that will ever walk through those doors. And when you have something sitting on the shelf, it's got to be kind of tempting to just go for the, like the eBay route, where you could sell that UCS set from 2006 and you could sell it tomorrow if you list it right now. Why wait, kind of thing. So it's got to be a toss up, because obviously, like, well, this is my assumption, but I guess a question to you would be like, do you put any weight on like how impressive it might look for your store if you have some of those old style sets and kind of real collectible sets? If you, instead of selling a set that you could sell right now on eBay, you want to keep it on your shelf because it really adds a lot of kind of wow factor for your customers. Is that a thought for you at all?
Oh, it is. And it's one of those things that early on, I haven't done much advertising outside of my local town. So I would say the true diehard Lego fans in my community have been through, and they come in regularly enough to see the inventory, even if it's not in my store for long. So I always display it, even if it's only for a week, and it kind of generates that. But I keep in mind my profits. And if I don't have the doors open because I can't pay the bills, then it doesn't do me a lot of good to have the stuff on the shelf. So I prioritize that, as hard as it may be as a collector and a lover of Lego myself. But with the hope in mind and the confidence knowing that, okay, now I can start to have some sets that sit around longer, that add to the decor, that add to maybe the reach of my store. People will come from farther away or come more regularly to see what the new sets are. And that's definitely something, now that we have the financial base, I can move forward to start getting more of the advertising, more the advertisement route, and looking to kind of draw people in. And with that, actually, one of the things that we've recently talked about here and that we've started is I have, and I don't want to kind of blow this too quickly as we're talking, but I've now got a second space, commercial space in this same building, and it has windows. And that new space is now my Bricklink store and a few other things that I have over there going on. But it's where we process used Lego. And I have window space that currently I keep the blinds closed because we don't have anything over there. Now what we're doing is we're pulling these used sets out of these bulk buys that we have. We're putting them in the window as we find the pieces. And so people can walk by on Main Street here and they can see the set as we first get it out. And then next week, maybe we have it built twice as much. The third week, it's almost complete sitting there. And then the fourth week, they see it in our retail shop. So just a neat little way of, hey, they're just going to be sitting in our room anyways. Let's build kind of the Lego fandom and the curiosity and the passion to go along with it. So
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned that, you like the community helps out quite a lot. And, as we know from even the online Lego community it's amazing. But how did you think about that when you were first opening up? Did you do anything to like let people know that this was coming, or did you kind of know that once you open the doors, people stumble in, the Lego fandom would be enough to kind of bring you back repeat customers and get people in?
Yep. I didn't do a lot for two main reasons. One, in order to fund it, I had really focused a lot of my energy into my Bricklink store. So my sales for Bricklink during the months of November, December, and January were the highest they've ever been. So, and it was only me at that time, with maybe a couple kids coming in to help out or a family member from time to time. So a lot of my time was eaten up by that. So I didn't need a lot of traffic coming through my store. And then we kind of had a spike in the sickness and the pandemic in our area during that time as well, with the holidays and travel. So it was one of those where maybe it benefited and made people feel more comfortable coming in to build, because I have that spot of the store where they come in and spend time if there's not a constant flow of traffic. So my decision was, okay, I'm going to open the doors. People will start to find me. And then it also created free advertisement opportunities. I started with only Facebook, and then the local paper reached out and did an article for me on the local paper. Being a teacher, a couple of the kids found out that I had the store opening. And so I teach at a private school. So the private school, a lot of the kids found out and told their parents they wanted to come see Mr. Drake. And then the public school, I taught there before. And so a lot of the kids came in and wanted to see. And so in a small town, word of mouth spreads pretty quickly. So I knew I didn't have to advertise to reach my community. But now that it's been 3 months, I've kind of hit that block where most of the people have come in, and they'll still come in from time to time, but they're not going to be daily. So I need to kind of start reaching outside my own community to generate more of that foot traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at that point to start looking at that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, got it. That makes a lot of sense. And so one thing that I've been hearing from the way you're kind of describing the way the store is running is that you're obviously Bricklink, and your ability to sell things online is really supplementing everything. If you were to break down, with rough percentages, how much of a percentage of the value of the retail store do you think comes from the fact that you're sourcing inventory from there, and how much do you think comes from the sales, right? So like, do you perceive the value of your store to be more because it's an avenue to sell, or more because it's an avenue to buy from people and to source great inventory?
75% to source great inventory, 25% to sell.
Wow.
I think it'll flip, and I'm almost guaranteed it would flip in the future. Yet again, I may be wrong, because as I get more foot traffic in here and generate more sales, I'm also probably going to get more people bringing in the good buys or the trade-ins. So it may stay that way. But right now it's definitely 75. And 75-25. And one of the greatest kind of victory stories of that is I have one kid that's in middle school, him and his friends, couple group of kids. They've come in and I've given them either money, cash, or trade-in value of up to $250 over the course of a month because of only minifigures that they bring in to trade in. And they're just bringing in minifigures. They've collected great Star Wars ones over the years. Just some rare particular ones that have gotten them. So I'm teaching middle schoolers the opportunity to invest and teaching them how their minifigures can be valuable, and they'll buy new sets and they'll trade me the one minifigure from that set that's worth money. And they're able to get that set that otherwise their parents would have said, no, you can't buy that set. It's too expensive. They're like, but mom, no, I can go give Mr. Drake this one minifigure and it'll pay for half the set. And so they're already
this is advanced. This is advanced strategies. I'm doing this, right? I did this with the Hogwarts Castle. If you buy the $400 Hogwarts Castle, now you can sell those 4 minifigs for around $100. Your kids are learning early.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's funny. And then the kids at school here, like, well, how'd you get that new set? Well, I took my minifigures, and I admit we do a little bit of show and tell in my class, and there may have been a time where we're pulling out Bricklink prices in the middle of our show and tell had to catch myself on that one. But kids were like, oh, how valuable is this minifigure? This is a rare one, right? It only came in one set, and they have fun with it. And I love teaching kids the importance of entrepreneurship because I fell in love with it with lemonade stands, Kool-Aid stands as kids, and trading cards was my big baseball cards. And so having these kids be able to kind of learn that now is as much as important to me as the profit is.
That's
if
amazing.
I had to give up one, honestly, I'd probably lean more towards giving up the profit than giving up investing in the kids. So,
and those kids, like, they have an opportunity if they can figure out how to be smart and go source minifigs from Facebook Marketplace or from Craigslist, bring them into you. Like, they could have a little arbitrage thing going on, and it
benefits me too. So it benefits everybody, and it just works out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One thing I was wondering about when you were mentioning the marketing that you want to start doing to appeal to people to travel further distances to come to your store and different things like that is like, and again, when we're talking about the breakdown between the importance of using the store as a sourcing mechanism and getting inventory or using it as sales, I think marketing the fact that you buy sets could do you really, really good, right? Because if you look at the way GameStop was so successful for so long, even when, it got very, very hard, I think their used game business was crucial for that because they were one of the few retailers that started pivoting and saying, okay, well, now we're going to start buying and selling used stuff. And the fact that they did that simplified it for everybody, right? Because most people don't want to learn how to sell on eBay or Bricklink or Amazon. They would love to go to a store with a trunk full of their old Lego and get cash, right? They would love that. Like, a lot of people would love that. And that's why GameStop could offer credits for video games that were worth $30 and they give you a credit of 10 and people were taking it. Like, some of the credit that GameStop offers is borderline offensive, and people do it because it's easier than learning how to sell on eBay, right? For most people. So, I'm not saying you should model yourself after GameStop, what they're used, but if more people understood maybe the values that they could get. So, for example, if you had on your website like a price list for some of the minifigs or sets or something like that, and people could look up or and check, oh, well, I have these sets. If I drive an hour to this store in upstate New York, I'll get cash immediately, and I have a lot of them. It'll be worth it. I can go home with $1,000 or whatever. That could bring people from further distances. So it's almost like they will travel more to trade in than they would to buy Lego. That's great. Just a random assumption.
No, but that I think that would work, and it's safe advertisement, because when you're advertising to sell something, it sometimes it can come off as abrasive. But when you're saying, "Hey, come to my store. I want to pay you to come to my store," it's just that good communication. They love it. They feel safe immediately, and then they're more trusting to buy from you even. And transactions to this day are still based on trust.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And you see that more so than most people, like myself included, who our businesses are primarily online, right? So you get to be face to face with your customers, which is a whole different dynamic, really.
Yep.
So I'm going to pull up a question from the chat. This is from Exterminator. Good to see you here. So, hey guys, what made you decide to open a brick and mortar store rather than stick to only online? I imagine running an actual store is a ton of work. So we alluded to it, but we haven't really gone deep on how much work it actually is to run the retail store side of things. And what was that kind of decision like for you to move away from just selling online?
Yeah. I'll be totally honest. Profit wise, there is only one thing that may make it make sense. And if this one piece wasn't a part of it, it would absolutely not make sense to have the retail side. Because it takes away from the Bricklink side or the eBay side or the Amazon side, where you can just turn over sets. You're handling the fulfillment every day. I'm filling orders at 11 o'clock at night just because I spent the time in the retail side, and I didn't have the time during the day to be able to go and do it. Sometimes when I'm working the retail side, I can be working the Bricklink side as well because I have it in the same facility, but not always. So for me, the main reason I did it was because of my passion. My passion's working with people. And I knew that building relationships and doing the workshops that I have was fulfilling for me. It would motivate me to work harder on the sales side, the online side, to make it financially work. But the one thing that profit-wise makes it work for me is the sourcing and turning over parts or sets that would not sell online. I have a row, and I'm looking over at it now, of about maybe 10 sets right now, or not even sets. They're just 10 cars or trucks from Marvel, Star Wars, city sets that are sitting on my shelf that I sell for $5 to $10 that online they would never sell. It would cost me more to ship than I'd get for it. But we call it our allowance shelf, where kids come in and they can just, it may sit there for a month, but after a month, someone's going to come in and pay $5 for a set that normally would just be, I just would give away or turn into parts. So having those sales that would not happen online because they're a lower price point, minifigures that don't sell on Bricklink, like the dollar minifigures in my shop, I can sell them for $1, $2, even $3 because a kid comes in and they want a doctor minifigure. They don't care that it was in 50 different sets and whatever. They just see it's in front of them and they want it. So having those sales that I would not get online make it profitable. Otherwise, it would probably make more sense to just have a space for the Bricklink store and not have the retail side. But I'm also finding out that it works if I take trade-ins. So I get a lot of good sourcing from the store. And that'll lead to something that hopefully we'll have time to talk about later. But my Bricklink store, I went from mainly new parts to now, because of my sourcing, I'm shifting to a lot more used parts. And that'll impact my profits margins as well. So I hope that kind of answers that question a little bit.
Yeah, there's one kind of, I guess, expansion that I want to make on it, which is like if you had to put in number of hours a day, if you added all of the tasks up to run the retail store, is it 8 hours a day? If like just specifically the tasks, because I'm sure there's a lot of waiting for customers to come in as well. And there's hours where you could be parting out a set, and it's like, because the business models kind of go hand in hand in that way. So do you like, how time consuming is running the store for you, the retail store?
Not at all. The only I would say it's about an hour a day that we're open, an hour a day of pricing figures out, putting the prices on the shelf, making sure everything's facing, looking good, making sure the floors are swept, the bricks are clean, those type of items. It only takes about an hour a day for that. I have a very small retail space. That was key for me. I went with a very small retail space to start, both so the lower financial commitment, but also the lower time commitment. The real time suck is the time I have to stand behind the register. On Saturdays, I have a class that I teach here at the store, 1 or 2 classes in the morning, and then it's my busiest time where I have people in most of the morning and afternoon. So I'm stuck in the retail shop and I can't ship out anything myself. I have to rely on somebody else to take something to the post office, to part out sets, to spend the Saturday. That's on Saturday. I would say my retail sucks about 7 hours out of my day from being in the store, interacting with customers. But again, that's an investment. Kids are coming back to my classes. They're telling their friends. They're coming to build in our build room. They leave with some minifigures. I'm developing the relationships. Parents find out, oh, why is that minifigure so expensive on the shelf? And I was like, well, it's rare. It only came in 1 set. And they're like, oh, I think I have that one at home. I'll give you $10 for it. And they come back and they get it. And so it's an investment, but it's definitely that time suck. And it depends on the foot traffic, which is why I was slow to advertise. Because if I advertised heavily at first, it would have taken up all of my time and I wouldn't have been able to devote the time to Bricklink. And I think everything would have fell apart.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You're adjusting to the new world that you're in, and and kind of ramping it up, and being able to allocate the resources into the areas that make most sense. And over time, you'll probably figure out that one thing is a lot more worth your time than others in the store, and maybe you'll.
That's actually huge, and that's what you have to figure out for yourself. For me, I am not the hardest worker. If I'm parting out a set, I get distracted easily. I have a contractor that comes in and does some parting out or picking orders with me, and he's faster than me. My fiance who comes in, she's one of those that sits down and focuses, and she can work faster than me after she's kind of learned the process. Me, I can sit down and work for about 20 minutes, then I have to go do something else and I come back. So, but I'm really good at managing people and encouraging them and supporting them. So being able to pop in from one side to the other is a strength of mine. If you're the type of person that can sit down and do best by focusing on one task, maybe having all those things going isn't for you, but being able to surround myself with a better team is a strength of mine. So I'm actually less productive if I'm not doing that. So that's
which is great, right? Because that like if you listen to any of the big tech entrepreneurs or people who are like mega rich, how did you do it? Like, is a question they're always going to be asked, and I never hear them say that the team wasn't everything. Like, it's always about who you surround yourself with. If you want to do these things, if you want to be able to be pulled in so many different directions in a single day and have multiple streams of income and run multiple different legs of your business, you can't do it all yourself, right? So hiring people that are better and faster than you, it's crucial. And I loved hearing you say that your fiance is kind of much more focused on the parting out, and because I had the exact same experience. I parted out a couple of sets with my fiance. We don't run a Bricklink store, but I kind of did it to learn about the process and different things. And she figured out a process that was twice as fast. She was way faster than me. She was using basically picking up parts with both hands at the same time and counting them at the same, in twos.
Okay, yeah.
So she was 2, 4, 6, 8, and I was doing one at a time and putting it into my other hand. And I was blown away by that. She was finished way before me. We were doing a little contest. But yeah, it's funny because it took me back when you mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, and I think this would translate to the investing side, whether you're investing in new sets, you're investing in parts, pieces, minifigures, or even a different industry, just anything retail. Something that I've learned is, I learned it from my religious background. They always would say you need a Barnabas and you need a Paul. essentially you need someone that is training you, that you're looking up to. You need somebody that you're working with, and somebody that you're bringing along and training up. And so I try and do that in my business of having, okay, who am I looking up to? And a lot of that comes from either the groups, the Lego groups that I'm a part of, whether it's BrickBucks, whether it's the YouTubers that I'm able to watch and see run their stores or they're investing, the entrepreneurs that I listen to their podcasts. Those are the ones that I try and strive to be. I have people that I'm working side by side with, maybe not locally, but the other people that are doing what I'm doing, the other store owners, things like that. And then I have people here, whether it's young kids or just adults that are wanting to start, that I'm teaching the process and learning from them as I'm teaching them how to do it. Because if I do this my whole life, I don't want to be picking orders when I'm 65 years old. I want to have someone else picking the order when I'm 65, and I'm getting to sit back and do something else and something I enjoy. So replace the things that you're not good at and stick to the things that you are good at, but you still got to know everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's crucial. So like too many people, I think they think that like they need to double down on the things that they're not good at, so they'll get good at them.
Yes.
And that takes time to, like, that took
it.
me time to figure out that's not the way I should be running my business. Like I shouldn't be doubling down on the things that I'm not good at. I should be doing the things that I am good at. And in my business, so my fiance as well, because she's more analytical than me, she's better at order fulfillment than I am. I'm better at sourcing, because so when I say she's more analytical, she's more detail oriented, right? But I'm better with data. So when I'm crunching numbers and looking at return on investments and the way sets have performed and stuff like that, it's very easy to me. But for her, it's like if she's just knocking out orders all day, that comes easy to her. And so things multiply for us when we started figuring that out, and doubling down on your strengths, outsourcing your weaknesses, and don't try to do it the opposite way around. Don't like, oh, my strength is a strength, so I don't need to focus on it. I'll just focus on my weaknesses because it's a weakness. It's kind of counterintuitive in that way, but it's important.
So what am I hearing, Shane? Is that if a guy wants to start a Lego investing or Bricklink store, they got to get down on one knee first and propose? Or
potential. Well, I started it before I proposed, but it is. Sure. I tried to get her on board very, very early because she actually runs a lot of our e-commerce, so it was a benefit. Where have you gone?
Okay.
Is it an engagement ring you're going to show me?
But okay, so it's a headless porg, but this is the first Lego set that I got her to buy when we first got together. And it sat in the box for about a year. But once I got the retail, she finally started putting it together. And once she started with Lego, now she's building a whole bunch of stuff, but she's got to finish the porg. But it's you just get the people involved, and you share each other's hobbies and interests. And it may not be your favorite thing, but you buy into it. And we're turning into relationship advice too, but
you know what? I actually wanted to come back to it and ask you about your fiance and because I've asked this to a few of our guests in the past, and I will continue to ask this question because it continues to be one of the biggest concerns that I hear in the Lego investing world, right? And I still to this day get questions about, how do I get my fiance or my wife or my girlfriend or my partner on board with this crazy thing that I'm doing, right? I want to drop this much money into sealed Lego sets or, stuff to part out or whatever it is. It is a crazy, crazy thing to someone who doesn't know about it, right? They're not kind of in tune with what can happen. Some people struggle to even convince their spouse about regular investments in stocks, right? And how can I get them to think that Lego is a good idea? So like, it sounds like you've been quite fortunate, like I have in that space. And like, did you ever have to do any convincing, or like, was there anything that you would say to someone who's struggling with that?
Yeah. I've heard you give great advice on this, or your guests have given great advice as you ask this question. Having the analytics showing on paper is all great. But I think for me, it starts with one question. And that's the one question you have to ask yourself is, what are you supporting your partner, whether it's a spouse or a friend or business partner, but if especially your spouse, what are you investing and supporting them in? So for me, I know there was a lot that I was supporting her in, and because she felt that support, I think it made it easier for her to support me and trust me in whatever she didn't ask the questions about, she didn't want to see the books at first. She just trusted me because she felt like, okay, I had her best interest and I supported her. She turned around to me. And so, especially us guys, we don't always come naturally at that. So maybe quickly first look to make sure you're supporting their hobbies, their interests. And then maybe it'll come back to you. And I'll use a little kid analogy. When I wanted my sister to come play baseball with me outside or play with Lego, I first would go play Barbies with her. I'll deny it, but wow. So it's like, it's literally that. Invest in your wife. Like if she wants to go to the art museum, go to the art museum and say, hey, can we buy this Lego set on the way home? And you can find ways, but just if you support them, I think in the long run, they'll support you as long as you're open and honest about it. But
it sounds very funny, but at the same time, you're tapping into like a real like psychological thing here. Like this is a sales technique that people use, which is the reason that people, when they're trying to sell door to door, like knocking on a door, they might like offer you like a flower before they try to sell you something.
Yep.
And it just psychologically gives you this reciprocation. You kind of want to give something back. And
well, like what we were talking about, we want to offer like offering money for your used Lego, like bring it to us. Like we'll pay you for your used Lego. Oh, by the way, while you're here, you want a new set? So it's that same psychology.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. It'll forever be one of the biggest, hottest questions in this world, right? When we're, talking about Lego investing, and I'll try to find an answer for everybody as much as I possibly can from talking to people who've been through it.
Yeah.
So
I wanted it's a good community. Talk to others. Throw it in chats. Talk to everybody about it. Everyone will help you figure it out. So.
Yeah. So I want to touch back on the events, right? So you mentioned, we talked a bit about your, the buying and selling that happens in a retail store, but you also have these events that you're running. And that was a big strategy of yours when you first kicked off it. So talk a little more about like, what are they? What do they look like? Is it once a week, or do you have different types of them? Are they competitions, or like, what exactly do you do?
Yes. All of the above. It's like throwing a bunch of darts at a dartboard and seeing what sticks with some, it's not totally blind. Like I know what works and know what I want to do, but I don't want to narrow my focus. I want to keep it open because actually I'll kind of start with this. I have a build room with, if you watch like the show Lego Masters, you see their big brick vault where they have all the bricks. I started that, and I want to be able to have all the bricks sorted for people to come in and build with like every Lego piece they can imagine. I imagined I'd get more teens and young adults that were hobbyists that would come in and use that room. It's almost been exclusively kids. So I've had to pivot. I gear it more towards the kids. I'm a little less organized because the kids don't care. And I've developed a playroom now where I have like Harry Potter castles and the Mario sets as play sets that are out for them to play with while they're here. And I never thought about that before, but I had young kids coming in, so it fit their need. I made that adjustment. But the classes based off the same thing. I don't want to close the door. If I have adults coming in for classes, teens coming in for classes, I just kind of want to see what works. My number one class is what I call my future engineering class. And it's what I've done for years in my own classroom as a teacher. It works on communication and task-oriented problem solving. The first day I threw the kids, I said, the mayor of our small town, we have a lot of cool things in our town, but he wants the biggest skyscraper in the town, in the world. He wants it here in Saranac Lake. Crazy, ridiculous. But they had to communicate. It was about 6 kids. They had to communicate to do it. They had 1 hour to do it. And about a half an hour in, I stopped them. They had a tower about this big, but it had security cameras. It had an elevator. So they went detail oriented. I took the next 2 minutes to build a tower that was 3 times as tall as them, but it was just a stack of bricks. And I said, well, guys, the mayor called and said he wants to build mine, or he wants to use mine and not yours. And so they quickly got their thinking. But the idea behind it is that problem solving, because I think Lego is such a tool that you can use in the classroom, you can use for engineering. I want to ignite that with the kids so that they'll do it outside my walls too. It'll pay off in the future with future customers, but realistically, it'll pay off with future critical thinkers, problem solvers, good communicators. So that's my favorite, one I'm most passionate about. We've offered an Amelia Earhart class where we've taken the Amelia Earhart Lego set. We build it over 3 weeks. Oh, that first class is every Saturday. The other one, like the Amelia Earhart one, we do it over 3 weeks. We do the build over the 3 weeks, and we also discuss the history. I have a math night where we just started about once a month. We'll take a different math topic, division, multiplication, and use Lego to solve math problems for kids. Wow. And to help teach them out. That's a once a month type thing. And then we had a Harry Potter night here where if you're a Harry Potter fan, come dressed in your house colors. You can bring a wand, cosplay, whatever you want if you want to go to that extreme. But we built the Harry Potter and Hermione buildable figures. And we just sat and chatted. It was a small group, but it was just a one night thing. And it was more for the collective Harry Potter Lego fan. We have a Star Wars, same type of thing coming up in the future for Star Wars fans, building a set, maybe a mock down the road. So it's a combination of those one-time events, the classes over time. My teacher side, I'll probably continue to do a lot of the classes and offer like the math. I love math, so I love doing that with the kids, the engineering. But I can also see a lot of the fan club type groups happening on a regular basis. And it's seeing what's profitable. The classes, it's straightforward. You just charge for so much for a class and they show up and it works out pretty well. The one-time events, I've tried one where I charge for it. I tried one where it's free. I honestly haven't figured out what works best yet, but over the course of time, it hasn't cost me money because I have the customers coming from it. And for example, from the one Harry Potter night, we went out and I actually, because I wasn't sure how many people I was going to get, so I didn't know what set we were going to build. We were looking at the castle, the big Hogwarts castle, and a few other sets. And based on the numbers that we had, we chose the buildable figures. So we went out and bought it retail price just to get it in the store quick, and we built it. And now I have them on my shelf and can throw a price tag on them and turn around and sell them for close to what we paid. And then we also have the profits from the night. So it's just all these different ways that work, and it brings people into the shop and brings people into the community of Lego, seeing parents build with kids,
which is amazing. Like, and you know, I want to touch on a handful of the things you just said, but one thought that I had before I forget it is, if you think about why certain retailers are not dying right now with e-commerce rising as heavy as it has, some retailers didn't survive it, right? Toys R Us, you know, and there's many of them that didn't survive it because the Amazons and, you know, all of the e-commerce, and they weren't good enough at pivoting to e-com. But others have done fine and they've done well. You have Barnes and Noble, right? What did they do? They open a coffee shop. Like, they partner with Starbucks. They have coffee inside their Barnes and Noble. They sell other things. Sephora, right? The makeup chain. One thing I'm always blown away by, and I don't, you know, like go into Sephora often, but whenever I've been in a Sephora, it's an experience, right? So people go in there to get to, like, they offer makeup. You can test the different things, and they offer like mirrors that will show you different things in your faces and all sorts of technology. What am I getting at here? It's experience, right? It's experience. If you're trying to compete with e-commerce where people can just go online and buy a Lego set, you need to have some sort of experience in your brick and mortar store, like some sort of reason why people will go there above and beyond what they can get on Amazon. Having a sense of community, having connection, being able to test out the products, you know, being able to learn, right? It's it's amazing to see the passion that you have for it, because you lit up when you're talking about the story, when you're telling the stories of the classes that you're doing, and the energy is very obvious. And I think it's an amazing connection to be a teacher and a Lego seller, because somewhere in the middle there is like, you know, a natural instinct that you want to help kids along and help them learn and, you know, create kind of interesting experiences for them. One thing I was wondering, like, you know, on the business front, I guess, I wonder if there's an opportunity. When you mentioned the math class, I just, my brain lit up and I'm thinking, kids, how do you get kids into a room like to learn math outside of school, right? You bring Lego.
Yep.
But I'd imagine they still don't want to go on their own, right? Their parents probably try and sign them up for it. But at the same time, like, it could be a really interesting thought. Like, if, I don't know if it's you or if someone else wanted to do some sort of tutoring, right, on not just math, but like on maybe math, but like other subjects as well with Lego, right? Like full on tutoring, and there could be parents lining up, lining up to book their kids into that.
And it starts with that math class that I'm offering. One of the avenues that I'm exploring is I'm going to offer, and I haven't decided if it's going to be the same day and time or if it'll be a separate day or time, but offering an online virtual version of it. Where anyone can do it, and they can sign up and we can do it virtually across. Yet again, my type of mentality, I won't talk about it much, but if anyone ever reads the book, The Go-Giver, or you have not heard of The Go-Giver, read The Go-Giver. I love to be a connector. My passion comes from being a connector. So one of the things I want to do is I would love to give the teachers that I work with that are going out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and waitressing or bartending, things like that. How much better would it be for them to be able to make a profit tutoring kids? And whether I can help a couple of them out virtually doing it, or just helping them start their own building curriculum online. There's places where they can sell it, but just that support. But tutoring is one where, hey, if I'm doing too much tutoring with the math and the Legos, I could hire another teacher on and have them come on and do it, and be able to provide customers more engaging math lessons. Kids love to learn multiplication division with Lego. It's a lot better than using paper and a pencil. And giving a teacher an avenue to earn that extra income. I don't need to be physically doing it if I can empower somebody else to do that too and give them a platform for it. And selfishly, I'll benefit from it financially too. So it works out.
It's a win-win, and it's something you're passionate about. And again, you know, that's so critical. As we mentioned at the very start of this conversation, being passionate about Lego is what really helps us to, you know, be focused and grow our businesses. Well, and, you know,
I know you got a question in mind, but you just mentioned the word focus. I probably sound like I'm all over the place, but Lego is what allows me to be focused because it's the security blanket. And I think for everyone that is investing in Lego, whether it's Bricklink or through sealed sets, reselling on Amazon, the fact that it's such a stable industry, it allows you to invest without a lot of risk, which allows me personally or our listeners to turn around and take those risks because the investment side is a safer bet than most. So go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted a little bit, but
well, Lego in general is safe. You know, it's just like revenue like this for the last 20 years. It's so impressive. It really is. I want to open up a comment or two or a question or two. So I had, so as we were talking about, you mentioned that like some of the parents, they see like expensive minifigures, like why is this one more than the others or whatever. I noticed that Greg had put a really interesting comment in here. Remember the $100 wine bottle theory? Put the expensive minifig in front so the $5 ones look like an absolute bargain. This is why I love these sort of forums, because people have such good insights and information, and that's exactly, you know, a strategy in the wine industry that could work really well in your circumstances. That's something you thought about, or is that an interesting thought that you might leverage?
So you can't see it, but I'm looking right across, and what I have when you first walk into the store, and not by mistake, it's because they're the quickest. I can get them in inventory quickly and they can sell quickly. I have my like minifigure shelves full of minifigures, and they're stacked. Right at adult eye level is the most expensive individually priced minifigures from like $75 straight through to even just $10. But then I have a $5 shelf, a $3 shelf, a $2 shelf, and that. But right at eye level is that individually priced, higher price point shelf with that in mind. And the collectors see it, the parents see those prices, and they'll turn around and be like, "Yep, you can get the $3 minifigure. I'm okay with that."
That's freaking cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've always been interested in that psychology that goes into organizing the shelves in a brick and mortar store. And I've always paid attention when I'm out shopping for Lego, like, why did I put this theme on this section of the shelf and this new set at this, at eye level, and all of these different things that go into it. So it is fascinating to me. So I wanted to ask you about some examples that you might have on some sets that you've sold in the store, right? So do you have like one or two sets that someone brought into you that you were like, oh, wow, like this is like a really good deal? Or do you have any examples of a set that you sold in there that was kind of a particularly good sale for you? Like, is there anything that stands out maybe in the first couple of months of the store?
Yeah. I don't think my one that stands out is more than just an individual set. Like that, the fact that I sold this big set was interesting. It was that before I opened my brick and mortar, I put 2 sets on Facebook Marketplace and literally almost forgot that I had them on Facebook Marketplace. And about a month into my store, I had someone reach out and say, "Hey, is that set still available?" And they're like, "I'd like to come pick it up." It was actually the Amelia Earhart set. And so they come in to get that, or they reach out to get it, and they say, "Yeah, where do you want to meet?" And I was like, "Well, why don't you come to my Lego store?" And they're like, "What? You have a Lego store?" And he came in, and I opened on a day when I was normally closed, or I opened early for him to come in, and he thought that was great. And he left with half my inventory, at least like Speed Champion sets. He bought every set that had a car in it. He was a Hot Wheels guy, it turns out. He collects Hot Wheels. And he saw the Amelia Earhart, thought it was cool, just a historical figure and set. And he saw all the Speed Champion sets, and he built one in the past, and that was his Lego background. But he saw the Speed Champions. I had the Jaguar, the dual Jaguar set. I had the Ferrari. I had some of the newer Mustang. Some of the smaller ones as well. And he just bought a stack of them, and he's come in multiple times. And it's actually benefited me in times where I couldn't get Lego from my supplier. So I literally went out to a retail store to buy Lego to come back and to add to my store, whether I could buy it on sale and sell it. And I literally took a picture of like 3 or 4 sets that I bought that were all Speed Champions, set into him, and I sold it by the time I made it back to my store. So it's just building those relationships with the customer. So that one, there's a few stories like that, but that's the best one, where he found me through a post on Facebook Marketplace, which now I do on purpose. I post on there and tell people to pick up at my store. And it just developed to now this relationship where instead of him going and looking online for a set, he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for the set. Let me know when you find it or when you get it in," and he'll come in and buy it. So that's a good one. As far as sets that I've gotten in, there's 2 individuals that have brought in a whole fleet of Star Wars sets that just have been fun to get in and to create conversation with. The UCS one behind me, I've had some Republic gunship or Republic attack ship V-Wing, right from that like 2006 to 2012 era. And a lot of the kids that I have that come into my shop, they get excited to see that era of Lego because it came out just before they could start buying Lego themselves or getting parents to buy them sets. So they get into those old sets. So those have been the interesting purchases as far as just creating that excitement as a Star Wars Lego fan, and then as a shop owner too.
The story with the Facebook ad is really interesting, or the Facebook marketplace listing is really interesting, because that's actually happened to me before as a buyer. So when I was opening a warehouse, we needed a pallet jack So like to lift pallets of books. And I saw an ad for a pallet jack, nearby, got in touch with the seller, and it turned out that they were liquidating a Barney's, right? It was a full Barney's warehouse near me in New Jersey that was being liquidated. I didn't see anything else on the ad, just a pallet jack, right? But because the ad was on, or the listing was on Facebook Marketplace, she said, come out to the liquidation sale. So I went out, we ended up buying a stack of things. We bought shelving, we bought like all sorts of different things from that. So, I mean, it's a good strategy, right? Because she was a liquidator, like a third party brought in to do these liquidations. And she was listing the items on Facebook Marketplace so that if anyone wanted that thing, she would bring them out to the sale, and then they would most likely leave with other things. So I wonder, should you list all of your Lego sets on Facebook Marketplace just to get people in?
I think so, within reason, so that you don't fall into the habits of cross listing where it becomes a burden and you miss something. But with what you can, absolutely. And if, from my experience, if our viewers can gain anything from my failures or successes, it's, I think if you have the ability, don't get narrow in your Lego investing. Keep yourself free to be able to explore different options so that you can find those unique finds, because those are where you make the most profit. You saved a ton of money, probably made profit from that liquidation sale you would never found out about. Me posting on Facebook Marketplace, I got those sales in. And the fact that I'm replacing some of my work with other people and training them to do some of the in-house work, it allows me to put myself into situations where I can find the good deals or find the good relationships. In starting some other ventures, I've already built some relationships that have led outside of those new ventures. So like, it's benefited my physical store, retail store, or my teaching career. And it just, my high school baseball coach, the best advice anybody has ever given me, or college baseball coach, the best advice anyone has ever given me is always leave a good impression, because you never know when you'll meet that person again or when you'll need them. And it is, keep those relationships. The best currency is relationships in this world. So
you're absolutely right.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's definitely true in this Lego world that we live in. So I want to take us in the direction of closing out, Dan, because you've been very generous with your time.
Of course.
But I do want to ask you one last question, which is, we have a lot of people watch the Brickbook videos who haven't yet dove into the world of Lego investing or selling in any form. So I'd like to, maybe get your thoughts on what you think a newcomer should prioritize, or let me put it this way to you. If you were starting again, right from scratch, what would you do in your first 30 days? What would be something, that you think you wish somebody told you right at the start to maybe do more of or do less of? What are some general kind of thoughts that you have when you think about that?
If you're jumping in and you don't have a lot of time, skip the U sets, which is probably the advice you would not hear. Because profit-wise, it's the least investment to get the greatest return. It just takes your time. But there's so many people that have done it over and over again. They have the process down. They can usually beat you out over and over again. So my advice is quantity. Look for an avenue of where you can get quantity. If you only have $100 to start, you can still start, but don't buy $100 Lego set that you have to wait 8 months to sell for a return. Go out and get the 501st Battle Pack. Those minifigures in that set, they sell for the price of what you can find it on sale. They'll sell within a week or a month at the most for the same price you pay for the whole set. Now you just did that, and now you have all those pieces available to sell for profit. Even if you maybe build the ships and you sell the ships on eBay to make $1 profit, it's $1 profit that you made quickly. It may not be the best example, but it's just a simple example of just go out, do it with a small amount. Minifigures, I think, are a great way of how I would start to generate profit quickly. And I learn a lot from minifigures. I see which ones sell. And if one doesn't sell quickly, Usually it doesn't slow me down. So if I was starting over in 30 days, it would be buying new sets with minifigures that can sell quickly and using those parts as my investment. So the minifigures get me my return, and those parts are my medium to long-term investment that allow me to reinvest. And then I build up to being able to look at the new sets when I have some cash on hand, invest in new sets at the cheaper price range that have a quicker return, or those retiring sets. If you come in the time of year where you can buy a set that's retiring, you could turn around and sell it for a profit in a couple of months. It may not be a high profit, but it's enough to take and reinvest. And the one piece of advice outside of that I would add, avoid clearance. If you're starting early, avoid clearance at like big box retail sellers, because everybody's buying that set. Long term, you'll make profit, but short term, you're going to be sitting on it because everybody's going to be selling it and the price is going to plummet for that immediate time. So avoid clearance. Sometime pay full retail price. The Mandalorian, the new set with the Mandalorian that has like the armor builder in it, comes with like 3 or 4 minifigures. I bought that one at full retail price because the going rate for the minifigures pretty much covered the full retail price. So don't be afraid to pay full price if you do your homework and find out that you can get your return on investment quickly. Just turn over the profits fast. You can do the more profitable situations later once you have cash flow. Cash flow is king. If you don't have cash flow, you're going to go out of business no matter how profitable of a set you buy. Yeah,
I love that. You actually touched on a whole business model that not a lot of people talk about there, which is, buying a new set, selling the minifigs, and then later selling the parts, right? So this is just an example as to how many different ways you can carve up the world of Lego and make it a business, right? Because you could, when a set retires, right, most of us keep it sealed. That's what we talk about mostly on BrickBucks, and we keep the set sealed on the shelf or in a box, and then we sell it as a sealed set. But even, opened and incomplete versions of that set also are going to go up in value after the set is retired. So this TIE Fighter helmet next to me right now is going through the roof in value. People who have used versions of this are also going to be able to sell that for higher price because of that phenomenon.
eBay damaged boxes. I have a safe search. eBay damaged boxes. I buy those all day long.
Yeah, right.
For that reason.
So that is an option, right, for people that you mentioned, which is buy the set, sell the minifigs in new condition immediately. Recuperate your money, keep the rest of the set, and sell it later. You could part it out if you want to do Bricklink, or you could sell it as a set at a later stage. When the set retires, it becomes an investment, just like sealed sets do. They won't go up in value as much as a sealed set does, but you've already got your money back from the minifig. So it's all good. Well, right, Dan, that was some amazing information. I loved learning more about your business. Really, really fascinating stuff. I learned a lot. I hope some of you viewers out there also learned a lot. Thanks so much for being here, man. Much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you go and like and subscribe to this, but also go and check out Adirondack Brick on the website. So adirondackbrick.com. Is that right, Dan?
Yep, that's it.
Yep,
right
it's
on
linked in the description. It's linked in the description. So go click that. Have a look at the website. If you're in the upper New York, what's your town called?
Saranac Lake. It's kind of where Lake Placid, where the 80s Winter Olympics were.
There you go. If you're in the area, go check out the store. Say hi to Dan. Once again, I'm Shane from brickbucks.net. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
We'll see
you in the next one.
See you.